Welcome back to Taxes Made Simple. I'm your host, Karlton Dennis. And in today's video, we're going to discuss why do people establish entities in Delaware? If you're somebody right now that's thinking about asset protection, you're thinking about growing your business, then you're going to need to establish your entity in the correct states. And a big reason why we go through the process of establishing these entities is for asset protection. But there are levels to asset protection. And one of those levels to asset protection is making sure that your name and information is being protected. One of the biggest benefits to going to states such as Delaware, Nevada, and Wyoming is for this protection that you can receive over your name. So what I want to do is I want to address the 5 biggest reasons why business owners choose Delaware as a state to establish their entity. Let's dive in. All right, guys. Reason number 1 is anonymity laws. And I want to make sure that you guys understand this word correctly, because I'll be honest, on my journey to becoming a tax strategist, this was one of those words you had to keep repeating and repeating over again until you got it. But anonymity laws pretty much means that your name is remaining anonymous from being online. And this is a big benefit when you're thinking about establishing a business. Long term, there will be a lot of people that could come after you, whether it's lawsuits or you doing something that may not be fair in the customer's eyes. You could end up with lawsuits as a business owner, and it discourages a lot of business owners to grow their businesses because of this matter. This is why we look to establish corporations and why we look to establish LLCs, because corporations and LLCs can give us that protection that we're looking for, separating ourselves from our business. But if we're trying to take it a step further from an asset protection standpoint, from a liability standpoint, then it might make sense to really establish our entity structures in a state that provides anonymity laws. And Delaware provides anonymity laws. What anonymity laws means is that various different states do not require the managers or the shareholders' names to be mentioned online in that particular state. So if I establish my entity in the state of Delaware, I have the choice to determine whether or not I want my public information, my first name, my last name, and the address of my registered agent, which could be me, online or not. If I choose to, I am now exposing who I am and where I am to any person that's seeking out the owner of the business. If I choose to do the latter and choose not to have my name or my shareholders' names on the online report or on the articles of incorporation or the statement of information, then I am protecting my business and the members who are underneath my business in the event that there's an audit that could arise, or in the event that there's a situation such as a lawsuit that could arise. A part of the reason why there's this level of protection is because there's an uphill battle when you're going through a lawsuit. The uphill battle when establishing a lawsuit is trying to determine who are the parties that are at fault. And if you're somebody that's thinking about suing another party, it might be hard to sue a party when you don't know who that person is, or where that corporation is established, or who the members are underneath that corporation. And this is what makes business really complex, because there's levels to being a business owner. And most business owners might just go online and establish an LLC or corporation in the state in which they operate in and find out later that their information is being exposed online. So one way in which we can protect ourselves when it comes to establishing an entity is making sure that we've covered the anonymity laws in our state and whether or not we should choose a state that does provide the correct anonymity protection. All right, let's jump into the second reason why people establish corporations in Delaware. The number 2 reason why people go to Delaware is because of the fees associated with Delaware. The incorporation fee for Delaware is less than $100. Whereas if you go to a state like California, you're paying upwards to $800 every single year to have your business incorporated there. Now, one thing that you have to understand is when you apply to be a foreign entity, which means that you're established in a state in which you're not currently doing business in that state, this means that there's going to be additional filing requirements inside of your tax return. But I want you to know something. As much as it is additional filing requirements to file your foreign entity in your state, it's also not that big of a deal when you think about it in the long term. Because if you're somebody that believes in solid asset protection, then you would be willing to pay the additional fees every single year to have your corporation in that particular state in order for you to have the liability and asset protection that you seek. I know with my corporations that a lot of them are established in states that have this level of protection simply for the fact that I do not want my information and my name to be online. And for many other business owners, they may go through that hurdle like I have to pay additional fees just to make sure that our name and information is protected. So if you're somebody that's wondering whether or not it makes sense for you to establish a corporation in Delaware, you have to be aware of these additional fees that could come up for filing an out-of-state return. But there's also a lot lower fees for establishing an LLC or corporation in Delaware from a state filing requirement perspective. So if you're thinking about establishing an entity in Delaware, make sure that you look at the state filing fees in your state first, as well as the state filing fees in the state in which you wish to establish. All right, guys, let's go into the third reason why people establish entity structures in Delaware. One of the biggest and probably the most coveted reasons will be for the court of Chancery that Delaware has. You see, Delaware has extensive court cases for business owners and for real estate investors that have sided in the favor of business owners and real estate investors. Because the state of Delaware has a court of Chancery, instead of electing random people to be on the board and decide your fate, they have a system in place that helps out entrepreneurs and helps out real estate investors rather than going to straight a juror of just random people who get to decide your fate. So a lot of corporations will establish their entities in Delaware for this particular reason only, and a lot of entities will establish their corporation in Delaware when they're planning on going public for this reasons as well. If you're somebody that's going to become a publicly traded company, which means that you have to be regulated by the SEC and the Federal Trade Commission, you might want to establish your entity in a place that does have a court of Chancery that sides in the favor of business owners, or has been known to side in the favor of business owners with some of their court cases. In the long term, you're building a business that's sustained on principles and laws that can help protect the owners and the investors inside the business. And if you're somebody that is planning on raising capital, which means that you need to protect the interest of the owners inside of your business, you might want to establish your entity in a place like Delaware that does have these type of laws and protection. And the court of Chancery is one of the biggest reasons why people establish entity structures in the state of Delaware. All right, guys, let's jump to the number 4 reason. The number 4 reason why people establish entities in the state of Delaware is because of COPE protection. COPE protection stands for Charging Order Protection Entity, and states like Delaware, Alaska, Wyoming have charging order protection laws. In the event that something happens outside of your corporation, outside of your LLC, there could be a charging order placed on your LLC that requires you to pay out distributions. But if you're in a state that has charging order protection laws, you can decide whether or not to take distributions from your own entity to suffice a charging order that was placed on your business in the form of a lawsuit. God forbid if something happens to little Susie while she's jumping on the trampoline with your daughter's friend, if something happens to the daughter while they're in your backyard, you could be caught in a lawsuit and maybe your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover this entire situation. So now Susie's parents are suing you for the fact that Susie got hurt at your house on your trampoline, and now your business that you have set up inside of an LLC is now being caused to be in this whole entire lawsuit. And now you're trying to decide if debts from your business have to be liquidated in order to suffice this entire lawsuit. Well, if you have charging order protection laws in your state, you are protected from this charging order that could be placed on your entity, which means you would only have to pay out distributions in the event that you take out distributions, and that is your control, which means that if I'm somebody that's a creditor or someone that's trying to sue you and I find out that you have an entity that's in a charging order protection state, I might rather just go to a settlement with you as opposed to trying to wait this entire thing out and really not collect on as much money as I possibly could collect on. So this provides a level of protection for the business owner and allows for you to protect yourself from events that could happen outside of your entity. And if you're somebody that realizes things can happen, this is an important one for you right here. The charging order protection laws is what protects business owners who are establishing entities in these types of states. All right, guys, let's jump into reason number 5. The last reason, and probably one of the biggest reasons why most business owners establish corporations in the state of Delaware or even LLCs in the state of Delaware, is for when they're raising capital. Just like what I said when it comes to the court of Chancery, how that's a big benefit to a business owner who's thinking about establishing a corporation, is having a place like Delaware that's had multiple court cases that have sided in the favor of business owners, entrepreneurs, real estate investors. Plus, you're not dealt with a juror with random people selected. So this is a big reason why most companies will establish their entities in Delaware when they're raising capital. You have to protect the interests of the investor. And that is probably the most important thing for you when you're a business owner that's raising capital. I talk to a lot of business owners that are either going public, that are raising capital for whatever business ventures that they want to do. And the most important thing to them is their investors. They want to make sure that their investors are protected, that their investors are safe, and most importantly, that they have a good game plan of attack on how to protect and grow that wealth. And the most important part is protect that wealth. And you can protect your wealth simply by choosing the right state to establish your entity structure in. Delaware will always be one of the biggest states for corporations to establish their businesses in, and this will continue to remain in perpetuity due to the laws that are currently residing in Delaware. I also look at Wyoming as a very great state to establish LLCs, especially if you're going into real estate investing, and Nevada also provides a level of asset protection and court of chancery as well. So if you guys are interested in learning a little bit more about how you should be structuring your LLC, how you should establish your entity structure for a corporation, please click on the link below and schedule a complimentary consultation with my team. We'd be happy to discuss this topic with you. You can also visit the link below to download any of our courses or our programs where we go over how to leverage the tax laws, how to put a tax strategy in place inside of your business or your operation so you can reduce your overall tax bill. My name is Karlton Dennis. That's all for this video. I hope that you learned a little bit more about Delaware corporations. I look forward to seeing you on the next video where we'll continue to expand our understanding around entities. Thank you so much for your time today.